Have you ever noticed that feeling you get when you hear someone speaking English and it's just so smooth, so effortless,
Oh, yeah.
almost like music?
Like they were born to it.
Exactly, and you think, wow, I wish I could sound like that. Well, today on The Deep Dive, we're going to explore that, how to get closer to sounding like a native English speaker.
Nice.
We're diving into a conversation between these two guys, Alex and Kundan, who really dissected what it means and what it takes for English learners to achieve that kind of natural fluency.
Sounds interesting. What do they have to say?
It's really insightful. We went through their entire discussion and pulled out the goal, the advice you can actually use, the key concepts that can really help you level up your English. We're going beyond just surface level tips here.
Right, because so many times it's like, learn more vocab.
Right.
Practice your grammar, which yeah, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Those are important. But we want to go deeper.
Oh, sure.
We want to give you that deeper understanding of what actually makes someone sound like they were, raised speaking English,
Mm-hmm.
not just like they learned it in a classroom.
Right.
So to kick things off, Alex and Kundan started with a big question. What does sounding like a native speaker even mean?
Right, because it's not just about, like you said, perfect grammar, is it?
Exactly. There's something more to it.
It's a feeling.
Yes. And what was fascinating in their conversation was how much they emphasized the musicality of language.
The musicality.
Yeah, think about it. Like the rhythm of how we speak. Some words are stressed, others aren't. The intonation, the way our voice goes up and down, which adds emotion and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the natural use of idioms and everyday expressions. It all comes together.
So it's not just about saying the right words.
It's not. It's about how you say them, the whole package.
Okay, so it's like music. You can play the right notes, but if you don't have the right rhythm, the right feeling,
It's not going to sound good.
it's just not going to work.
Exactly. Cool. And this brings us to that idea of fluency,
Hmm.
which Alex and Kundan made a really crucial distinction about. Fluency isn't just about speed.
Right. It's not just about talking super fast.
Right. It's more about being able to express yourself clearly and comfortably.
Right, without stumbling over your words.
Yeah, without constantly translating in your head.
And feeling stressed.
Yes. Without that mental block. It's about a direct connection between what you think and what you say.
I like that. It's like a direct line.
And that brings us to what might seem like a pretty obvious point,
Okay.
but it's a game changer for a lot of learners.
What is it?
Thinking in English.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that before.
We all have. It's easy to say, right?
Easier said than done, though.
Oh, much easier. Because actually making that switch in your brain, that's the real challenge.
It is, and it's kind of hard to explain,
Mm-mm.
because if you're used to thinking in your first language and then translating,
Yeah,
it's like adding an extra step.
exactly. Like a detour.
Yeah, a detour in your brain, basically.
And that detour slows you down.
Right. And even if what you say is grammatically correct, it might sound a bit off.
It might not have that natural flow.
Right, exactly.
So by training yourself to think directly in English, you're basically creating a super highway for your thoughts.
Nice.
Straight to spoken English. No detours.
I like that analogy.
But, as Alex and Kundan were talking about, this isn't something you can just decide to do one day and poof, you're thinking in English.
No, it's definitely not a light switch, unfortunately.
You have it.
Yeah, a habit that you have to work on, you have to
You
build.
have to cultivate it.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that make it tough for learners to make that mental shift?
Well, one of the biggest things is, just habit.
Oh, yeah, good old habit.
You've spent years, maybe your whole life, processing the world in your native language.
Right, that's your comfort zone.
Exactly. So when you come across something new, something challenging in English, it's natural to go back to what you know.
Yeah, like a default setting.
Exactly. Another thing is how a lot of people learn English in the beginning.
Right, in school.
Yeah, where the focus is often on grammar rules,
Memorization.
translation,
Yeah.
and that kind of reinforces that reliance on your native language.
It's like building that bridge instead of tearing it down.
Right, exactly. And then, of course, there's the fear of messing up,
Oh, the fear.
the fear of making mistakes.
Yeah, that can be paralyzing.
It can. Because if you're constantly worried about getting it wrong, you're more likely to stick to simpler sentences, things you know are correct from your first language.
Right, you're playing it safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that prevents you from truly letting go
Mm,
and thinking in English.
it does. So Alex and Kundin didn't just talk about the problem. They gave some really practical tips for actually retraining your brain to start thinking in English.
Okay, I like practical tips.
Me too. And the first one they talked about is so simple.
What is it?
It's called labeling.
Labeling. Like with stickers.
Not quite,
Yeah.
but it is about putting labels on things, but in your mind.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So the idea is start consciously identifying the objects around you with their English names.
Okay, so instead of thinking, I don't know, libro for book, I think book.
Exactly. Or mesa for table. You think table.
Okay, so you're creating that direct link between the object and the English word.
Yes. You're bypassing that translation step.
I see, I see.
You can do this all day long, silently to yourself.
So like a little mental workout.
Exactly, like you're remapping your brain with English labels.
Cool, I like that.
The next technique they talked about was narrating, and this one might feel a little weird at first.
Narrating, okay, like telling a story.
Kind of, but you're telling the story of your own life to yourself in English.
Oh, so like an inner monologue.
Yes. So you might think to yourself, I am making coffee. I am walking to the bus stop. I am going to the store later.
So you're practicing making sentences, using everyday vocabulary, but all in your head.
Exactly. It's like a dress rehearsal for real conversations.
I like that, a dress rehearsal.
Hmm.
So you're getting comfortable with thinking and forming those sentences.
You are. Okay, next up. Using English. English dictionaries.
Wait, hold on. Why not just use a bilingual dictionary?
It's faster, right?
Yeah, if I want to know what a word means, I just look up the translation. Done.
I know, it seems counterintuitive. But Alex and Kundin explained that using an English dictionary forces you to think in English.
Explain that.
Instead of getting a direct translation, you get a definition using other English words.
Okay.
So you have to understand those words to understand the new word.
So you're not relying on your first language as a crutch.
You're not. You're building your understanding of English within the English language itself.
Okay, I'm starting to see the logic here.
It's like you're immersing yourself in the language even when you're just looking up a word.
Right, it makes sense. And that actually leads perfectly into the next thing they talked about. Immersion.
Ah, yes. Classic language learning advice.
But they had a specific take on it, didn't they?
They did. It's not just about having English on in the background.
Right. It's not just passively listening to music or watching TV.
It's about actively engaging with the content.
Okay, what do you mean by actively engaging?
So, for example, if you're watching a movie, don't just follow the plot.
Okay.
Think about the characters. Why are they doing what they're doing? What are they feeling?
Oh, interesting.
If you're listening to a song, try to really connect with the emotions behind the lyrics.
I get it. It's about going deeper than just understanding the words.
Exactly. You're absorbing the cultural context, the natural way native speakers express themselves.
So you're picking up on all those nuances, those little things that make a big difference.
You are. Now, this next one might sound a little strange, but they talked about speaking out loud to yourself.
To myself.
Yes. Talk to yourself in English.
Okay, that does sound a bit weird.
I know, but it's surprisingly helpful
Okay, why is that?
because it gets you comfortable with actually producing English sounds. You're working your mouth muscles, getting your brain used to forming sentences in real time.
So even if it feels awkward at first, it's worth doing.
It really is. And you don't have to have a deep conversation with yourself.
Okay, good.
You can just describe what you're seeing, what you're doing. I am washing the dishes. I am opening the window. Simple things like that.
Right, just get those words flowing.
That's it. They also recommended keeping a journal in English.
Journaling. But how does writing help you speak better?
It's all connected. Writing helps you clarify your thoughts, improve your sentence structure, and expand your vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
And often, that clarity and confidence in writing translates to your speaking.
It's like cross-training for your English.
It is. The last technique they highlighted is called active recall.
Active recall. What's that all about?
It's about actively retrieving information from memory.
Okay.
So when you learn a new word or phrase, don't just passively look at it.
Okay, so don't just write it down 10 times.
Right. Instead, try to use it in different sentences in different situations without looking it up.
Oh, so you're really forcing your brain to work.
You are. It's like a mental workout for your vocabulary.
Valid.
So we've got all these great tips for thinking in English.
Yeah, for getting that inner English voice going.
Exactly. But what about actually speaking out loud, having conversations?
Oh, right, because that can be intimidating.
It can be. Even if you're thinking in English, getting those words out confidently can still be a challenge.
Absolutely.
And Alex and Kundin had a lot to say about building confidence.
Let's hear it.
First and foremost, Mistakes are part of the process.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Everyone, even native speakers.
True, true.
So don't let the fear of making a mistake stop you from speaking.
Easier said than done, but I get it.
The goal is to communicate, not to be perfect.
Right.
They also talked about finding a supportive environment to practice in.
Like a language partner.
Yes, or a study group.
Or even an online community.
Exactly. Somewhere where you feel comfortable making mistakes and learning from them.
A safe space.
Yes. And don't forget to celebrate your progress.
Oh, that's important.
It is. It's easy to focus on what you can't do yet.
Yeah, to get discouraged.
But take the time to acknowledge how far you've come.
Right.
Every little victory counts.
It does, it does. Did you understand a new word in a movie? Awesome. Did you manage to have a conversation without switching back to your native language? Celebrate that.
Exactly. Those are wins.
They are. And another thing they talked about, and I think this is so key, is the power of positive self-talk.
Oh, yeah, the stories we tell ourselves.
It's so easy to beat ourselves up, right? I'm so bad at this. I'll never sound like a native speaker.
That negative voice can be so loud.
But Alex and Kunin said, replace that with positive affirmations.
Okay, like what?
Tell yourself, I am improving every day. I am becoming more fluent. I can do this.
I like that.
It's about changing your mindset.
It is. Okay, so we're thinking in English, we're building our confidence.
We're talking to ourselves in the mirror.
Maybe. And now, let's talk about listening. Because Alex and Kundin spent a lot of time on how crucial it is to sounding natural.
I feel like listening is often overlooked.
It is, but it's the foundation.
The foundation.
Yes, think about it. When you listen to native English speakers, you're not just learning vocabulary.
Right.
You're absorbing the rhythm, the intonation, the subtle ways they pronounce words. You're training your ear to the music of the language.
So it goes back to that musicality we were talking about earlier.
It does. And it's not just about understanding individual words.
Right.
It's about understanding the context, the unspoken cues.
The feeling behind the words.
Yes.
Right.
And that's why they recommend listening to a wide range of English content.
Like what?
Podcasts, audiobooks, music, movies, news, anything and everything.
Because each one offers something different.
Exactly. Different accents, different speaking styles, different vocabularies.
Okay, I get it. But here's a question. I listen to English podcasts all the time, but I still feel like I'm not improving that much.
That's because there's a difference between hearing English and actively listening to it.
Oh, there is.
There is. It's like you can have music playing in the background while you work, but are you really listening to it?
Not really. It's just background noise.
Same with English. If you're not paying attention, you're not going to absorb as much.
Okay, so how do you actively listen?
Pay attention to the pronunciation. How do they form the sounds? Notice the intonation. Where does their voice go up? Where does it go down? Listen for the pauses, the emphasis, and try to understand not just what they're saying, but why they're saying it.
Okay, so it's about being present, being engaged with the material.
Exactly. Another great technique they talked about is imitation.
Imitation.
Yes. So listen to a phrase or a sentence and then repeat it out loud, trying to copy the speaker as closely as possible.
So like mimicking their pronunciation.
Yes. And their intonation, their rhythm, even their accent, if you can.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's like a vocal workout.
And they also said something interesting about listening to the same material multiple times.
Yeah, that might seem counterintuitive.
It is. Why would you listen to the same thing over and over again?
Because with each listen, you notice new things.
You do.
You do. The first time, you're just trying to understand the main idea.
Right.
But on the second listen, you might pick up on some new vocabulary.
Okay.
The third time, you might notice the subtle ways the speaker uses intonation to convey emotion.
Interesting.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
I like that analogy. So you're getting more out of it each time.
You are. And finally, they stress the importance of listening to a variety of accents.
Accents.
Yes, because English is spoken all over the world.
True.
And there are so many different accents.
Yeah.
British, American, Australian, Indian, and so on.
Right.
And by listening to different accents, you train your ear to understand a wider range of spoken English.
So it makes you a better listener overall.
It does. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Thinking in English, practicing speaking, the importance of listening.
A lot of great tips.
But it's not just about techniques, it's also about mindset.
Right. The mental game.
And Alex and Kundin had some really valuable insights on that too.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
First of all, be patient. Learning a language takes time.
Oh, yeah. No instant gratification here.
No. There will be times when you feel frustrated.
Well,
Times when you feel like you're not making progress.
I've been there.
It's normal. It's part of the journey. Just keep going.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
And try to enjoy the process.
Yes. It shouldn't be a chore.
Find things in English that you actually like.
Right, whether it's music, movies, books, whatever.
Make it fun. And perhaps most importantly, figure out why you want to sound like a native English speaker.
Your motivation?
Yes. What's your driving force?
Because when you have a clear reason, it's easier to stay motivated, especially when you hit those inevitable roadblocks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you will hit roadblocks.
Oh yeah, there will be bumps in the road.
But remember why you started.
Keep your eye on the prize.
And keep practicing.
Keep listening. Keep speaking.
Keep learning. So, to wrap things up, what have we learned from Alex and Kundan?
Well, we learned that thinking in English is key.
It is. And there are practical techniques we can use to train our brains to do that.
Like labeling, narrating, using a monolingual dictionary.
We also learned that making mistakes is okay.
It's more than okay, it's essential.
It's part of learning. And that we need to create a supportive environment for ourselves.
Where we can practice without fear of judgment.
And listening, oh my gosh, listening is so important.
More than just having it on in the background.
We need to actively listen, pay attention to the details, and expose ourselves to a variety of accents.
And most importantly, we need to be patient, persistent, and positive.
So much good stuff.
It is.
So here's a challenge for you. What's one small thing you can do today to start shifting your thinking into English?
One small step.
Maybe label a few objects in your house.
Or narrate your dinner prep.
Anything to get those English gears turning, because those small actions add up over time.
They do. They really do.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. We hope you found Alex and Kundan's insights helpful and inspiring.
We did.
Keep practicing, keep learning, keep pushing yourself.
And remember, fluency is within your reach.
It is.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us.